300 attack drones, 90 miles from Florida. And most investors have absolutely no idea this is happening. I've been watching money flow in and out of defense stocks for over 4 decades. I've seen wars start. I've seen governments panic. And I've seen fortunes made by the people who positioned themselves early before the headlines, before the emergency spending bills, before everyone else woke up. What's happening right now with Cuba has the same fingerprints as every major defense spending cycle I've ever seen. And the window to act intelligently is narrow. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what I'm watching, why I'm watching it, and what you absolutely must avoid if you don't want to hand your money to Wall Street and walk away with nothing. Before I go any further, let me be completely clear. This is not financial advice. I'm not your advisor. I'm not your broker. I'm sharing my thinking, my experience, and my framework. What you do with your own money is entirely your decision, and you should speak to a qualified professional before making any investment. Now, with that said, let's talk. My name is not important. What's important is that I've spent over 40 years watching how money moves. I worked at the highest levels of institutional investing. I've seen hedge funds position months before a catalyst hits the news. I've watched small companies become giants because a government checkbook opened at exactly the right moment. I bought oil service companies 6 months before a war that nobody saw coming. Those positions are up 70%. Not because I had inside information, because I know how to follow the money. And right now, the money is starting to whisper about something most retail investors haven't even heard of yet. So here's what's actually happening. Multiple intelligence sources, Reuters, Axios, confirmed U.S. intelligence reporting, have verified that Cuba has accumulated roughly 300 Russian and Iranian military drones. These aren't toys. These are attack-capable systems with the operational range to reach American infrastructure. Power grids, oil refineries in the Gulf, airports, military bases in the Southeast, all of it within striking distance. The CIA director visited Cuba last week. The U.S. military has been running counter-drone defense exercises off the coast of Key West. This is real. This is verified. And this is the kind of thing that historically causes governments to open enormous checkbooks very, very quickly. Now, here's the part that most people miss. The United States has spent trillions of dollars defending against jets, against missiles, against bombers, traditional threats, but drones are a completely different animal. They fly low, they're cheap to build, they're small, and traditional radar systems, the ones the U.S. has been relying on for decades, struggle to detect them reliably. So Washington is waking up to a gap, a serious vulnerability on its own soil. And when a government realizes it has a critical security gap, there's one thing you can count on with absolute certainty. They spend. They spend a lot, and they spend fast. I've watched this pattern play out 3 times in my career in ways I'll never forget. After September 11, 2001, Homeland Security spending exploded almost overnight. Companies that specialized in security screening, surveillance technology, and defense contracting went on extraordinary runs. Some multiplied several times over in just a couple of years. Most investors who made real money on that weren't buying on September 12th. They were buying months earlier when the threat was building, but nobody was talking about it publicly. Then when cyber attacks became a recognized national security issue, cybersecurity companies went from obscure little tech businesses that nobody understood to billion-dollar giants in a matter of years. Same pattern. Threat recognized. Government panics. Checkbooks open. Early investors win. And then when Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, defense stocks rallied sharply as governments scrambled to rebuild military stockpiles. Again, the investors who made the most money were the ones who saw it coming, not the ones who bought the day the tanks rolled in. In fact, let me tell you something counterintuitive that took me years to fully internalize. Buying defense stocks when a war starts is often exactly the wrong time. I bought those oil service companies in September. In October, the conflict didn't begin until February. And what happened right after it started? The stocks actually pulled back 20%. Because by then everyone could see the trade, all the smart money was already in. The headlines were screaming. And when the headlines scream, the professionals are already selling to the people who just woke up. That's the game. It has always been a game. And if you understand that, you already know more than 90% of retail investors. So let me walk you through the mistakes I see people make over and over again in situations like this, because avoiding mistakes is more valuable than picking winners. The first mistake is going straight for the obvious names. Everyone knows the biggest defense contractors, massive companies, enormous backlogs, billions in revenue. And yes, they might get counter-drone contracts, but if counter-drone revenue is 2% of a $200 billion business, even if it doubles, it barely moves the needle. It's a rounding error on their income statement. Meanwhile, a small specialized company where counter-drone work is entire business model. That's where you can see explosive growth. That's where a contract announcement can double or triple a stock price. Big names are comforting, but comfort and returns are not the same thing. The second mistake is chasing leverage. I see investors look at triple leveraged ETFs and think they've found a shortcut to 3 times the gains. There is no shortcut. There is something called path decay. Let me explain that simply. A leveraged ETF resets itself every single day. So even if the sector trends upward over months, the daily resets cause you to bleed money over time in a way that isn't obvious until you look at the actual numbers. There's a 3 times leveraged defense ETF called DFN. It is down this year. The regular unleveraged defense ETF it tracks is up this year. Think about that. The triple leverage product lost money while the underlying sector gained. That's path decay in action. Leverage is a tool for professional short-term traders. It is not a tool for building long-term investing positions. Don't touch it. The third mistake is ignoring valuations. Just because a stock is in the right sector doesn't make it a good buy at any price. Some counter-drone companies are trading at price-to-earnings ratios above 100. That means you're paying $100 for every single dollar of profit they generate. If growth slows even slightly, those valuations collapse hard and fast. On the other side, there are genuinely quality companies in this space that are beaten down 30, 40, even 60% from their highs, trading at levels that historically have preceded significant bounces. Understanding the difference between those two situations is what separates people who make money in thematic investing from people who repeatedly lose it. So let me walk you through what I'm actually watching. I'm going to go from the most conservative end to the most speculative, and I'm going to be honest with you about the risks on every single one of them. On the conservative end, the first thing I'd look at is an ETF called XR. An ETF is just a basket of stocks. You buy one thing and you own a little piece of many companies at once. XR is a defense-focused ETF, and it has one characteristic that I find genuinely interesting. Most defense ETFs put most of their money into the biggest companies. The giants get the majority of the weight. XR holds around 40 stocks and weights them roughly equally. Each company gets about 3% of the fund. That matters because when a specific theme like counter-drone defense emerges, it's the smaller specialized companies that tend to move the most. An equal weight fund captures more of that upside than a fund that's basically just a bet on the top 5 giants. The ETF is up about 4% year to date, which sounds boring, but it means you're essentially getting into this position at a flat entry while the underlying theme is building. That's the kind of situation I pay attention to. The next company I'm watching is Axon. You might know them from police body cameras or tasers. That's still the core of their business. Stable, recurring revenue, almost like a subscription model for law enforcement departments. But they quietly acquired a counter-drone company called Dedrone, and that division just grew 300% in the last year. 300%. And last quarter alone, they generated $100 million in counter-drone revenue, up 95% year over year. Here's why that's interesting to me. You're getting exposure to the counter-drone theme without taking pure play risk because the body camera business is still generating predictable cash every single month, regardless of what happens with drones. The stock isn't cheap. A lot of people are already looking at this space, but it's the kind of company where the combination of stability and high growth exposure makes it worth monitoring closely for the right entry point. Moving up the risk scale, there's Northrop Grumman, ticker symbol NOC, one of the largest defense contractors in the world. They build everything from B-21 bombers to space systems. The stock is actually down this year, down about 30% from its peak, and there's a technical indicator I watch called the RSI, the Relative Strength Index, which is simply a measure of whether a stock is being oversold. Right now, Northrop is at RSI levels that historically have preceded rebounds in this stock. I'm not buying it yet, but it's on my watch list specifically because it's a quality, proven business that is being priced like something is seriously wrong. And I don't think something is seriously wrong. It's just that a lot of investors took profits after the Iran conflict and the stock got hammered. Beaten down quality is the setup I look for. Then there's L3, Harris, ticker, LHX. These are the people who make the technology that tells you a drone is coming before it even gets off the ground. Electronic warfare systems, sensors, communication. Exactly what you need for counter-drone defense. They do about $5.5 billion in revenue every quarter. Their margins are actually improving. Their cash conversion, meaning how well they turn earnings into real money, is strong. The stock pulled back hard from its peak, but it looks like it's starting to consolidate and stabilize. I want to see it push through around the 320 level before I'd even consider an entry, and I want to see buying volume increase. Without that confirmation, I'm watching from the sidelines. Now here's the one that's a little more aggressive, but genuinely interesting. Kratos, they build unmanned aerial systems, military drones, and they're developing something called a Loyal Wingman program, which is drones designed to fly alongside manned aircraft in combat. They have a $2 billion backlog. That means $2 billion in contracts they've already won and haven't delivered on yet. Revenue is growing, margins are holding, the business is actually doing well, and yet the stock is down roughly 60% from its high this year. 60%. When I see a business doing well and a stock pricing in disaster, that's where my ears perk up. But I want to be very direct with you. This is a higher risk, higher volatility name. It can move 50% up or 50% down quickly. I am not buying it right now. I'm watching for signs that institutional money is starting to flow back in. When I see that volume, when I see that confirmation, that's when the conversation changes. There's also Elbit Systems, an Israeli defense company with deep experience in drone and counter-drone technology. Their systems have combat validation, meaning they've been tested in real conflict, not just in a lab. The stock is down about 25% from its peak. It's still above its longer-term trend line, which is a better situation than some of the others we've discussed. They've grown their dividend nearly 50% year over year, which tells you they're generating real cash. For someone who wants international exposure to this theme with a proven, battle-tested company, Elbit deserves to be on the watch list. And then there's the most speculative name I'll mention, Red Cat. Small company, less than $1 billion in market value, not profitable yet. This is the kind of company where you could lose everything you put in, or you could see it triple if they land a major government contract. I want to be completely honest about that. What makes Red Cat interesting, despite the risk, is that they're on something called the Pentagon's Blue UAS list. That means their drones have met U.S. security requirements and can be purchased by the Department of Defense without restrictions. That's not nothing. That's a real competitive advantage. But this is a lottery ticket. You treat it like one. If it works, great. If it goes to zero, it shouldn't hurt you. That means your allocation here, if you're interested at all, should be tiny, a fraction of a percent of what you own. Nothing more. Now, let me tell you what to stay away from, because I think this is just as important as knowing what to watch. Palantir. I know. Great company, strong business, AI tools for the military. The stock has been a wonderful performer. But here's the thing. Palantir doesn't make counter-drone hardware or software. They provide general AI tools to the military. The Cuba counter-drone story isn't going to move Palantir's revenue in any meaningful way. It's a $300 billion market cap company. Even if they win some counter-drone adjacent contracts, it's not going to double or triple the stock. When you have the opportunity to invest in something with direct exposure to a theme, don't settle for indirect exposure in something tangentially related. If you want a counter-drone, buy a counter-drone. Rheinmetall. is a German defense contractor that's been doing very well from the Ukraine conflict. Strong business, impressive numbers, but the Cuba counter-drone story is a U.S.-specific catalyst. Washington is going to spend money on American companies to defend American infrastructure. A German company whose primary customer is the German government isn't going to capture that spending. And if you're a US-based investor, you're also taking on currency risk by owning something denominated in euros. Don't complicate your life unnecessarily. Drone Shield is an Australian company with direct exposure to the drone theme, but it trades on the Australian exchange in Australian dollars with very thin trading volume. Thin volume means the gap between what buyers and sellers want is large. That means when you buy, you're already behind. And when you want to sell quickly, you may not get anywhere near what you think it's worth. If you're Australian and you understand that market, it's a different conversation for everyone else. Leave it alone. And I've already said this, but I'll say it again because it matters. Stay away from leveraged ETFs as a long-term position. They are not what they appear to be. The math is working against you in ways that aren't obvious until it's too late. Let me close with what I actually think matters most here, because getting the stocks right is only part of it. The investors I've watched make real money over decades are almost never the ones who found the perfect stock. They're the ones who managed their position size intelligently, knew why they were in something, and had a clear plan before they put a dollar down. Never put more money into a theme like this than you are genuinely comfortable watching go to zero. That's not pessimism. That's professionalism. And if you're looking at this entire counter-drone sector, thinking about the Cuba catalyst, thinking about what could happen, a total allocation somewhere between 1 and 5% of your portfolio is probably the rational frame. If it works and you have the right companies and the thesis plays out, that small position becomes a meaningful contributor to your overall wealth. If it doesn't work, your life continues and you still have your foundation intact. And here's the thing I want you to carry with you beyond this video, the pattern we're discussing. Threat emerges, government spends, early investors win. That pattern is not unique to defense. It plays out in every sector eventually. Cybersecurity, clean energy, AI, rare earth minerals. The skill isn't finding one theme. The skill is learning to recognize the pattern everywhere it appears, before the headlines scream it and the professionals are already selling. That's the difference between chasing returns and building wealth. And that difference is almost entirely a function of timing, discipline, and knowing what you're actually buying and why. I'm not telling you the Cuba situation will turn into a full defense spending cycle. I don't know that. Nobody knows that. What I do know is that the setup beaten down stocks, a clear emerging threat. Government attention starting to build is exactly the kind of situation where being early and being patient has historically rewarded careful investors, not reckless ones, not greedy ones, careful, informed, patient ones. That's who I'm talking to right now. Do your own research. Question everything, including what I've said here. And if you take nothing else away from this video, take this. The best time to look at an opportunity is always before it's obvious. Right now, this one isn't obvious yet, but it's getting there. And that's exactly when you want to be paying attention.